Figma's new AI isn't exactly what you might think. Figma just released or re-released their AI feature, calling it First Draft. You click on the AI icon and suddenly a design takes shape in front of your very eyes. For most people, it feels like magic, but Figma's AI isn't creating something from nothing. The first time they released it, it was pulled for copying other designs. With Figma stating shortly after launching Make Designs in limited beta, we learned that an issue with the feature's underlying design system resulted in mocks that resembled existing apps. We have temporarily rolled back Make Designs while we fix the issue. Figma says this re-release has gone through extensive analysis, iteration, and testing. And I can confirm Figma's First Draft feature can produce some pretty impressive looking designs. But you might be surprised to find out how this really works. If you click on First Draft and then select Basic Site, you'll see the four main options for generating designs. You can create a basic mobile app, you can create a basic mobile app wireframe, a basic desktop site, or a basic site wireframe for desktop. Let's test this out using Basic Site. We click on that and then enter in our prompt or choose an existing one. I told it to create a financial dashboard in light design with the color purple. So it's generating this pretty fast, and it's got a lot of detail here. And compared to many of the other UI screen generation tools that I have tried, this one is a lot cleaner and a lot closer to what a professional designer might produce. But as hinted at in the press release, there's something underpinning all of this, and the secret is hiding in plain sight. If we go back to First Draft and click on Basic Site, you'll see where it says pick a library to get started. Every first draft is grounded in a library. The options above are just the beginning, with more coming soon. So where is this library? Well, if you generate a design with any of the First Draft features, if you go to the Assets panel, you'll see Simple Design System with 372 components. And then clicking into that, you'll see all of the components that were used to assemble this design. Now we can drag any of these components into our canvas and explore it a little further. So if we drag in this card, for example, you'll see in the Properties panel, it says Simple Design System. Click on that, and there it is, available and accessible to everyone for free in the Figma community. So on a foundational level, it's actually just pulling from an underlying design system and assembling from a library of components. Now we can take a closer look at this design system by opening it up in Figma. So here we can see all of the basic atomic elements like typography scales and guides, color scales. We've got icon sets and lots of different component sets like buttons, cards. And then if we click into the component sets, you'll see elaborate descriptions about these components, how they're put together, and how they should be used. So for example, the cards have a fixed width of 440 in the component set, but when placed in designs, they're auto layout. So not only is this really cool to see what's happening under the hood, but this is a great learning tool to dig into and see what is at the foundation of these design systems and how you can put them together, use them, understand them, and create your own. But how far can this take you? What happens when you need something custom or to solve a unique or complex problem? Well, Figma says eventually you'll be able to use your organization's unique design systems and component assets and patterns to generate UIs for your brand. And I did notice that in the Assets panel, you can click on Add More Libraries, and you can see your existing libraries and search for something like Material 3 Design Kit, and then add that to your libraries. So what else can this do? Let's generate another design here, and it's going to be for a video app for Marvel movies. So it's going to work now, creating lots of original images here. And this is using Amazon's Titan diffusion model to generate these images. Similar to something like Midjourney, it is very convenient having this type of tool inside of Figma. And if you're like me and ever struggled with auto layout, the beautiful part about this is that it creates all of this with auto layout perfectly nested and componentized. One of my favorite features is this one. I hate making tables by hand, but if I ask Figma to generate me a table, let's say a CRM table like I have here, it will do that and fill in all of the columns and rows. And if I need to add more content, I just select this column and then look for the little handlebar and drag it down, and it will automatically repeat that content and those components for me. And for all of us that never name our layers, Now we have no excuse because Figma does this for us. So we know that Figma can produce one pretty decent screen, but what about the rest of the screens in the flow? Can it create those, and can it match the design and the concept that we just prompted it with? So first, I asked it to create 3 separate screens in a flow. That didn't work. We just ended up with one screen. So it's clear that right now you cannot ask the prompt to generate more than one screen at once. But let's see if it can make another screen that looks just like the one that I first asked it to generate. And I want this one to have things like password reset, name, etc. So this did a good job of putting in the elements that I requested, but not in the same style. Even the suggestions for changing the theme doesn't have a theme that matches the one that we originally generated. So the best way to deal with this right now is to make changes using the styles, where you can adjust the colors and radiuses of buttons, etc. But then you have to deal with little quirks where when you drag the radius slider, it changes not only the radius of the text input fields, but also of the toggles, which is not visually what we want. So let's see if we can get this to now generate that table that we had before. I'm going to use a very similar prompt. I'm going to tweak it a little bit to see if I can get a better output. So we finally got it to generate some images for our customers, some avatar pics, but the table and the columns that I requested just aren't there. So right now, this isn't generating full flows where everything matches and looks cohesive. You'll still have to do a lot of manual work if you want that to happen. Now that we have 3 screens, let's take a look at another feature that promises to be really helpful. Zooming out, I'm going to select all of the screens that we've created, and then back to our action button, we'll click on Make Prototype. Figma is going to go to work noodling this for us. Let's preview the prototype. If you click on Menu, it's going to take us to the dashboard, so that could be labeled as the dashboard item. Clicking this does take us to Settings. Now, it may not be within the dropdown of the settings because we haven't made that screen, but overall, it interpreted what I wanted from these very few screens pretty well. So overall, I did notice that I come up against certain blockers when I'm trying to make certain changes, or when I generate something with the same prompt and it gives me something completely different than before. For example, I kept prompting it to try to add avatars to each of these rows, but I just couldn't get it to do that, even though I know that there's a component called avatar block that I could potentially use. Now, Figma has been transparent about this, claiming that their libraries generate things that match really common design patterns. So for anything outside of this, it might struggle to create anything original, custom, or complex. So the truth is that while AI features like Figma's first draft can save time when you get started, without a solid understanding of design systems, design patterns, and core visual principles, you're still left with only half the picture. And with tools like this being accessible to anyone, the bar for designers to have a more diverse and deep skill set has been raised. Like any great designer, Figma's AI generation is built on a structured system and processes that allow these concepts to be expressed. The real design magic and effectiveness comes from understanding how the user should flow through the experience, how they will interact with the elements, and how to design to achieve business outcomes. This is why I emphasize learning these core skills of user research, UI design, business, and product strategy in my course, because designing really good products is about aligning design choices with goals, not just piecing together UI components. So while we might perceive this as some kind of sorcery, in reality, it's just a carefully orchestrated assembly of pre-existing pieces. The why is up to you. But the biggest problem I see here is Superman. That's DC. Tisk, tisk, Figma. If you're ready to look beneath the surface and take control of these building blocks and your own skills, consider enrolling in our beloved product design course. And make sure to watch this video next.